Welcome to The Pivot, stories of people who made a change. My name is Andrew Osenga, and my guest today is Sara Groves. Sara Groves is on the Mount Rushmore of Christian music singer-songwriters, just one of the greatest of all time. She lives in Minnesota, and she and her husband run a place called the Art House in North, which does all sorts of arts and faith, community gatherings, and we're going to hear all about it. It's amazing what they do there. Sara and I have been talking about having her on the podcast since the first version of this podcast years and years ago, and it was such a treat to get to finally have her on here. I know you're going to love this conversation with the absolutely incredible Sara Groves.
Yeah, I've had many pivots, and we talked about it actually back when you were officing at the Art House. We talked about doing it, and at the time, it was the biggest pivot had been buying the Art House, and at that point, we downsized from our mini kingdom to basically a pretty tiny house, and so I've had a few pivots. So I don't come here really prepared for either any end. So if you have a particular pivot that you're that's kind of interesting to me. Yeah.
We were sitting on my little couch in Charlie's old art house in Nashville, and we were talking about doing this podcast, and then I stopped doing it, so we did not do this interview.
Yes.
So now it's 5 years later, but you guys had just started the Art House North.
We've been at it 15 years now, so but I think we were just talking. Yeah. We were just talking about pivots, and I think I was asking you about, I just love the podcast. I love what you've done. And it is so, it is interesting that when you're young, you look ahead and you see people and their lives are, you just wonder, how do you get there? And then when you're actually living it, it's a little bit more like one lily pad to the next. Than you maybe could see, when you were younger. You think, if I want to head there, I probably should turn in that direction. And then so much happens that you're some of it happened because you turned in that direction, but a lot of it happens because of this isn't doing it anymore, or this, for whatever reason, we get squeezed out both, so yeah, all those pivoting spaces. But a big pivot for us was in 2011, buying the Art House, and we kind of traded we were living in the suburbs and had our suburb mini kingdom, and we traded that to buy the Art House and then a little house down the street that was 700 square feet when we bought it, and we'd been in 4,000 square feet. So it was a big part of that journey, but was definitely not even there's such an excitement and a sense of a forward motion that it was just an adventure. My first night in the little house, I felt like Mrs. Claus. I don't know. It was snowing outside, and we were all just tucked in with our piles of blankets. And this house had been built in the 1880s, and we were just it was very cozy, and it's kind of it felt like being on the bus. And I think that's what the whole family was there for it, because we had so many years on the bus, and we'd had this we don't need much. We can it's kind of nice when you leave town with just that one DOP kit, just your toiletries bag.
Simplifies things. Yeah.
And that smaller wardrobe and all that. So it's there was a piece of it that felt really simple, and we were, and then we were launching Art House, which had its definitely trials, and it wasn't all up and to the right for sure, but there was a sense of adventure and being home. I think we'd been out on the road for so long, and we want to grow something here at home. We felt like strangers at home a bit, so it felt really good to root a little bit here. And and that rootedness, we're in now in such a season of Troy and I, there's just the building is in use nearly every night of the week, and it's just hard we could never have seen that at the beginning, and yeah, so we get a lot of fruit these days where we think, how did that happen? But we did live it, we walked it out, but it's just like, yeah, I guess, there's still hard things about, I mean, community is hard. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, Andrew.
Why did you want to do this in the first place? Like, why trade in the mini kingdom, to buy an old church and a tiny house? Why did you do this?
Well, we worked with Charlie in 2003, and we worked with him again on Fireflies and Songs in the very first time I pulled into the art house parking lot, that little studio that he had.
Yeah.
I didn't even have language for it, but I remember getting out of the car, or maybe we'd been there and we talked with them and we'd kind of caught a little bit of that Charlie Andy magic, magic dust was like in the air.
It's magic. Yeah.
And it was just, I remember getting back into the car and all I could say was, I get it. I get it. I get it. And it was just a feeling of an old church because church, and now, but see, and here people are going to, and that's, and I didn't know what I was talking about, but I had come to life in a way that, that I felt, would you even let us consider, doing something like this? So when we looked for probably 5 years with 5 other family units. So we had a friend that was single, a guy that plays in our band, and another music friend. So we had looked at, it was just communal living. We were just going to start a commune, and we looked at a bunch of different buildings. And then all at the same time, this kind of hippie guy came and found us and said, I heard you guys are thinking about doing communal life. And he just kind of warned us about a couple things. He said, it's really hard to own something together because financially that's really messy. It's just like if someone, you kind of want to keep people free to come and go, and that piece of owning something can get sticky. He just gave us some really weathered advice about real, actual, like living with people. So when we saw the art house,
you don't expect the commune hippie to warn you against not doing the commune hippie thing.
Yeah, right. I felt like he knew what he was talking about, and it felt like one of those conversations where you're romanticizing something. And we were reading a lot about the missional church and how if you make community the point, you'll kill it. You have to be in mission together to some end. Because if you just make community your mission, then you're just going to sort of like that gets unhealthy. So we were just trying to stay open about it. And the day we stood at the art house and looked at this particular building, Ben and Jen announced they were moving to Phoenix. Melody announced she was moving to Florida. So everything kind of fell apart in the moment it seemed to be coming together. And so then Trey and I had to decide if we were going to move forward, alone or whatever, do this thing. And the vision was just so compelling to both of us that we would have a space to basically all this dialogue we'd have on the bus after a concert or at a conference where I'm sharing or a retreat center. How can I bring some of these conversations home with me and not feel like I'm just drenched in these amazing spaces? I'm growing so much. How can I bring a piece of that to my neighborhood, to my community? So that was the origin. That was part of the origin story. And there's obviously, like anything, a lot more to it than that. But yeah, so we bought it in 2011 and it was, a mess. I mean, it needed a lot of work, and we saw right away that we couldn't do it by ourselves and we need volunteers. And I think that I thought this is who's going to come, or I hope these are the people that come. And a lot of those people didn't come, and a whole other group of people came. And that was also interesting of like, the people who show up for you and are actually kind of holding open hands of like, oh, a lot of the magnet people that that I was like, wow, if we were all in the same room. But they're magnet people, so they have their own, they're doing that somewhere else, so they're already doing a community. And so it was really interesting, like the types of people and the needs so yeah.
So you're not the people who already had a thing going are not coming to your thing because they're already tending a fire. So you're gathering colder people who are looking for a fire.
Honestly, yeah, in a really sweet way. There's just like who's going to assemble around your fire, it has nothing to, you don't kind of have nothing to do with that, and to be interested in what is happening and curious about what is happening is, I found, part of the journey, to say who is coming and why are you here and what would serve you best, what kind of stuff do we, what helps us grow.
So is the art house doing this week what you thought it was going to do 15 years ago?
Oh, gosh. Yes and no. This week tonight, we have a new play starting tonight. What is that called? Opening night for a play.
So fun.
Called Shanty Boys, and it's a musical written by my neighbor, Jeremiah Gamble. So right towards the beginning of Art House life, we partnered with our friends. They had been on the road where we were doing music. They were doing theater. And they moved in down the block, and our kids went to school together. We've been friends for many years. And Jeremiah, he's written most of the plays that they do, he's written, and he's a great writer. He has a real touch with a comedy that tugs at the heartstrings. It's all the things. And he turned his lens to regional storytelling a couple years ago, and he's been telling Minnesota stories. So Shanty Boys is a lumberjack tale, and that starts tonight. So that's been something we discovered early on, that we needed to have partners that came with their own batteries, because we weren't going to be generating everything. So and Charlie and Andy taught us a lot about that. They would say, like, whatever is going to happen here, it has to be in the river we're already flowing down. If we're already in the river going, and what we're going to do community-wise is open that up, an invitation. Like, if you want to go down this river with us, everyone's welcome to come along. But we know our work. We have a sense of our calling and what we're doing. So they were inviting people to travel with them, but they weren't generating, to stay with the metaphor. But anyway, they were like portaging and picking up their canoe at every stop. It was like, it has to kind of be not easy, but it has to kind of make sense with what you're doing. So a lot of our partners have come along that way, where we're asking a question and then someone comes along and is like, I always thought I might do something like this at Art House. So we have a lot of artist partners that have their own passions, their own batteries, their own ideas. Yeah.
That's really cool. So what does your involvement look like at the Art House?
Yeah, so we have media specific groups, like a visual artist group that meets to paint. Everyone brings what they're working on. We have a writers group where they do get feedback. I lead the songwriter stuff, and I'm developing a new creativity kind of retreat workshop, because I think that creativity belongs to everybody, and that we've lost, like, everything becomes so professionalized that you don't know how to find your way in. So I just like that exploration of, like, I think everyone should have a creative habit in the same way they have a fitness habit. They should have a creative habit, whether they're a doctor or whoever they are. And so I'm experimenting with, how do we open the doors of Art House beyond just people that feel a calling to the arts, to, like, people that are curious about the arts and might want to develop a creative habit, to have kind of a retreat that lets people try some stuff and maybe discover a creative habit that they really love. Because I think it really rescues us. It helps. Right now, I think people need somewhere to go with their feelings and frustrations. And so, yeah, and beauty will save us. Maybe.
That's a powerful idea. My brain is on fire with what you just said. I love that. Well, that actually is a question that I wanted to ask you, because I wonder if you get a lot of similar emails to some that I get, which is people will often write me because of some of the work that I've done. They have a real burden. That they're songwriters, or they're authors, or they're poets, or painters or something, and they see people like you and me who are quote unquote creative for
Doing
their day
it.
job, right? And you and I know that our day jobs don't always look creative all day. Sometimes, almost never. But, technically on paper, we are creative for a living. And they're going, I would love to do that. Or I would love to do that a little bit, or better, or how do I grow in that? Or, they carry some fire and they don't know what to do with it. I wonder if, A, what does that actually look like in your real life? And then B, maybe we can get to this in a minute, what advice do you have for people when they carry that fire?
Yeah. Yeah, you came and spoke, or you spoke via Zoom to my songwriter group last
Yeah,
year.
that's so
Was it
fun.
last year? And you did an
Yeah.
amazing job, and they loved it. And you are such an incredible person to know, because you are walking, like, you've got the right brain, the left brain. You're very like knowledgeable on so many fronts, and are so like far down the road on so many fronts, that you're like walking volumes in that regard. So everybody was loving the things you were sharing and imparting to them. But that, I think, as a part of your talk, as I remember it, and a lot of times in that songwriter workshop, people are coming because they're saying, what do I do with these songs? I have this. Maybe in college I was known for writing songs, and now I haven't. Life took over and I haven't done it in a while. And to me, our metrics of success and failure are very tricky. The fact that we live in a world of advertising and endorsement, that's the only language we swim in, is language of endorsement. It makes it really hard for us to just find the thing, because we leave maybe the development thing too soon to go sell, or, what I mean? There's all these variations on what we're doing. And connecting with people, I think, comes from just like the work you've done, for me anyway. And what I tell my kids and people when they're at the songwriter thing is, you really have to just work on stuff. Not that you have no control of who finds it, because I know that you do. There are things we can do to like bang the drum and be heard and do those things. But first you have to kind of like understand that it is a practice for you, and that you're doing it because it's helping you grow. And I think that we carry that lens of like, I can't wait for this will all be complete when someone else hears it. It's definitely part of the formula. But sorry, Andrew, I'm all over the place. I don't have a good answer to that, but I would just say
it's great.
I think the mindset of what Charlie gave me years ago was, the label was pushing me with Add to the Beauty, was the language was like, this is your last chance to really make a mark in CCM. And in order to do that, like, we've got a strategy. And I was being pushed to make this record. Jeff had asked, can I go meet with Brown? Like, basically before I talked with Brown, the label went ahead of me to talk about, like, this is the kind of record we want to see Sara make. And I was on board with that. I was telling Jeff, like, hey, I want to play well with others. I want to do the thing.
And Jeff, so everybody
Jeff
knows,
Mosley,
the head of your old label. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the president. And he was sensitive to to listen to me about things. But he was like, I know how to kind of hit this target and work to this end, and I was like, he was working with Mercy Me and all these amazing people. And so I was like, I want to, whatever it is, I want to, work well with others and bring other people in and not be like just alone with my principles. So he encouraged me to, like, here's what we're going to do. And I was set on a course to make this record that was going to kind of really, really go down the center of, of CCM. And they worked with radio. So that was the whole conversation. And when I met with Brown, I was having a lot of conflicting emotions. Brown was in that lens. He sat down with me and was like, the songs I was bringing, he's like, these are really blue and green songs, and we need some red songs. We need some, up tempo. We need just like some, he was kind of using this color coding to say, we've got a lot of blue and green and we need a little red. So I went home to write red songs that were supposed to be, I knew what we were trying to do. And I was just really bound up by it. And anyway, long story short, Charlie, I just had a total meltdown and called Charlie, and he kind of gave me the language of, he's like, you're just not going to be a Walmart. You're a mom and pop. And that's a space. That's a thing. And it's actually a good thing. It's not, it's apples and oranges, but you don't have to go, and not about Walmart like bad, big box is bad or anything like that. Just literally, there are steps to take to move in that direction. And I don't think that's how you're made. And so when he gave me that language, that was so helpful, because that's also market language. So I could go to Jeff and say, hey, Jeff, I'm not a Walmart, I'm a mom and pop. And Jeff had ears to hear that too, to say like, all right, I get that. That's a space, it's not
that
Walmart,
changes,
but it's
our marketing. That changes
what we're doing. Yeah. But then I went on to, with that kind of curation and that kind of idea, and a little less like, from the very beginning, I felt like God told me there are enough ears. It's not a competition. Like, people, not everyone's going to get what you're doing. Some people are really not going to like it. Other people, you're going to be their songwriter. And they're going to look like, when their life is changing and their kids are leaving for college or whatever, they're going to go, what's Sara Groves saying about that? Because you're going to be processing, you're doing something, you're doing a contemplative work that they're off in their jobs and they're not doing that all the time, and they don't have access to that part of themselves. That's kind of your role in the community. You're naming feelings, you're naming experiences. You're going to try to like pull out of it like, wow, what was that? And what was it? What was that when I stared across the island at my husband and he's in there somewhere, but I can't see the boy that I married. And I know that the girl that loves him is in here, but she's like buried way down in here. And we're masked up and we're squaring off in like the worst fashion with each other. And it's like, what is that? And then this girl in me is like, hey, where's the boy in there, that Troy that I fell in love with? I think he's still deep down in there, So I start like, I'm writing about my marriage. I'm writing about like, what does it feel like when your folks are sick and you're caregiving and you're, and there are people that are asking themselves the same question. They're going through it, or they're not even asking, they're just going to work. And then at the end of a really terrible day, they put on a song and they realize like, wow, my husband and I just had that thing where we squared off against each other in the kitchen island. And, yeah, hey, the girl in me is calling out to the boy in you. And all of a sudden they have language for like, we lost ourselves there for a minute, So to me, it's all very like embodied, and it's about our day to day. And I found my way in that moment, in that mom and pop space, in that lack of competition, or in the sense of like, hey, if I make something I'm proud of, I'm over here in this corner just like doing my thing. When somebody comes along and finds it, if I'm proud of it, then it's like, hey, I've been doing this for 30 years. You want to see what I made? Come over here. I've got some stuff.
I love that.
And there's a real joy in that and a freedom. And, the whole making a living part to me is like, it's not that we don't have any control, but what happens with it is really, really like beyond my control in a lot of ways. And there's strategies and things, but if I live in strategy land, I'm not going to make the music that I'm proud of and do the thing I love.
Yeah.
So I have to get more in this space of like, hey, I'm curating a mom and pop shop, and when you come by here, I've got some stuff I'm really proud of. Maybe it'll help you name some of your stuff too. Maybe you'll resonate with it. And if you do, great. And then if someone sticks around and is like, yeah, I like, you really helped me name some stuff. I think I'll tune in, to your whatever you're doing next. To me, that kind of growth is slow, and it's the best. And it's the people that are like with you 30 years later. And and that's like unbelievable gift. And that's where I am right now. So I'm 53, and I'm like getting to meet people that have been all along. It's like, maybe I'm not their only songwriter, but I was their songwriter for a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. And that's an amazing ecosystem to be a part of. And but okay, sorry, back to your question. So for the
No,
person that
I
comes,
love this.
yeah, for the person that
Yeah,
comes to
go
the
ahead.
songwriter thing, and they're like, how do I get out there? To me, it's like, I do have some things that I tell people about that. Like, you're always invited to the party that you throw. So, throw a party, have a concert, whatever. Start with a room. I think, like, play to the room you can fill. So, I have a few little statements and things that I tell artists, because if you think you can fill a room of 20, then play to a room of 15 and sell out. If you
Yeah.
think you can play, if you think you have 50 friends, like, play in a room for 45 and have 5 standing at the back. That's going to be a really fun night. So, you just like, it is such like, it's a lot of work. It's so much work. And you just start, if you feel the fire for it, you're not going to be able to do anything else, and you're going to keep at it. But that mom and pop mentality helped me make Add to the Beauty. And Add to the Beauty is a crystallizing moment in my life where I missionally state, I state so much of, like, from out of this place of, like, really declarative and, like, what's the faithful thing to say, and like, kind of I'm trying to find my voice. And then with Add to the Beauty, I feel like there she is. And I still, that record is like, it charts, so many things are like germinated there, from our partnership with IJM to the art house to, it's just like so many things start with that at that point
Yeah.
for us, that are not about public life at all, but are everything about who I am as a person.
I totally hear that in that record. Okay, this I really want to dig deeper into something you were just talking about. There's this image of musicians that they are young. We see there's always kind of the picture of the hot new artist that explodes on the scene, and when you start out as a musician, there are a lot of people. And, there's a lot of 22-year-olds, 25-year-olds in the music scene. And then 5 years later, you look and there are many less people in the game right away. And, in some sense, it's a young person's game, in that I don't still want to be driving around in my Toyota in my late 40s and playing shows. That's bad on my back. It's bad on my knees. It's bad on my family. Right. So in some senses, there are some challenges that were not there at this age to being in music. And we can see people that are still trying to be young, right? Madonna's trying to still act like she's 25, and the Rolling Stones are still trying to sing about girls. That's gross.
Yeah.
But you're not doing this. You're talking about singing about a marriage in at 2 or 3 decades. You're talking about parenting. You're talking about taking care of your aging parents. That's a whole different relationship with an audience. That's a different kind of art. I see Paul Simon doing that. We have a few examples of artists that are doing that. What's exciting for you about this? What are some of the opportunities and advantages to being an artist in at 30, 3 decades in?
Well, I heard an interview with Barbara Streisand, and she said, it doesn't get easier, it gets harder. I think I tip my hat to any older artist, because it's like, I know now a little bit. I mean, I know a lot more of what it takes to keep walking out there in front of people and offer yourself like that. It takes a lot. It's a toll, not just, mentally it's a toll, emotionally. It would be a lot easier to not do that. And so when someone is still putting themselves out there, and then for me, and I don't know, like, some people, you hear them, and I just went and heard Peter Gabriel, and he sounded amazing. So that's great for you. Love that for you. Love that for you, Peter. I'm not having the same experience I have I've had issues with my voice, and I forget. I'm a woman of a certain age, and when I entered the change, it was like, oh my word, the memory really goes. It's like, scientific. They have scans of a woman's brain not in menopause, and it's like, fiery red, and then there's like the woman's brain in menopause, and it's like pretty black, pretty dark.
Wow.
You're just like, it's actually like the way you come into womanhood and the way you leave it are actually scientifically, they mirror each other. So,
Wow.
so puberty for a girl coming into womanhood, you're also like, you have this discombobulation, a sense of like, because anytime your body's like kind of working on something physical, it's the brain kind of takes, it's not as active. Like babies tend to either walk or talk. You're either an early walker or an early talker, because your body's either spending a lot of energy getting you up, moving and toddling around, and then the language part, or you're a real early verbal kid, and then you're kind of a late walker. That's usually what you see, because the body's kind of doing. And so in junior high, like new learning goes from 80% down to like 20% during junior high, because kids' bodies are changing and everything. And then it goes back up. So your ability to learn new things goes literally down to 20%. So junior high teachers aren't imagining it. They like, I used to teach, and I taught junior high for a minute, and a veteran teacher said, English is just the backdrop for like just learning how to be human. That it's just 2 years of survival of like, this is how you human. And if you teach like that and don't try to think about like them reaching all these, objectives and goals, you'll be a lot happier, because English is just the backdrop for like, we're going to just come together every day and learn how to be human. So for a woman anyway, and I think we age differently, women and men, because men don't take as many like steps. Like, I think it's a little bit more gradual, but for women anyway, there are these big kind of like drop off points, and all of a sudden just stuff, your things change. So for me, that showed up in like a lot of ways, but forgetfulness. And I had to ask myself, an anxiety, I had to ask myself, okay, do I quit because I'm forgetting lyrics? Do I start bringing, like, I feel like a little girl at a recital some nights when I bring out my like music and put it on the stand.
I can't play without my lyrics anymore, because I can't remember lyrics.
No.
It's a thing.
No, it is
and
a
I'm
thing.
I can't blame menopause.
No, it is a thing for all of us. Yes. Yeah. So I do feel that I, the benefit is what you asked me about, and I went into the negative, but the benefit is that I feel a lot more comfortable in my skin, in that even with the forgetfulness, that if I forget something, I've got a pocket full of jokes. I just, I pull one of my many, bits out about forgetfulness, and everybody kind of settles in, and they feel like, I think my ministry is people feel better about themselves when they're done, being around me. It's like, I'm pretty put together. That's what they think. That's what they think when they've been around me. They're like, I'm doing all right. So I have that ministry of helping people feel better about themselves. But so that part, I had a mentor who told me, she was a teacher. She taught at a university, and she had a mentor who was in her 80s, and she was a teacher as well. And kids would line up out the door to take her class. And she'd asked this woman, what's a secret for as a woman, And she said, you just, all your life, whether you know it or not, you have this tendency to kind of tuck stuff in, to like not let your slip show, not have your skirts show, and be like, I've got it all together. And she said, this woman said, lean into your quirks, lean into them, and don't, like, that's that kind of seasoning only gets better with age, so that like lean into the quirks, because that kind of authenticity and that kind of seasoning is an aroma. It is like a winning thing, and that for me, how it set me free from a bunch of tucking and hiding and keeping in, like, oh, I'll just I'll just have to fly the way I be myself here and let it all out. So I have that song I have that line in a song from Invisible Empires. I have a song called Obsolete. It's hard. It starts out, it's hard to feel obsolete. It's hard to feel your skirts are showing. You try to like keep it all tucked in and whatever, but there's something good about invisibility, about a little bit of like, you're kind of on an invisible path a little bit. And it's like, then when you interact with people, it's a pleasant surprise, and there's like, I don't know, less expectation maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Sense.
Like when I see you have that moment, I'm charmed and delighted. When it happens to me, I can't sleep for days about it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
And we're hard on ourselves. That internal dialogue definitely is still actively harsh for me.
Okay, so Sarah, if someone has listened to you for 25, 30 years, they feel like they've cried to your songs, they've spent, they know every lyric by heart. They feel like they know Sara Groves through the songs that you've written. What's something that they would be surprised by from, what by who Sara Groves is? Something that would delight them if they got to actually know them.
I don't know. In the moment, I think that my music probably comes across as pretty serious, and I think I am a pretty like, I like to laugh, and I like to play a lot.
You're a fun hang. You're a good hang.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
You're a good hang.
I think that I love I like playing games. I have a lot of wonder and whatever. And I think a lot of my songs are, what I need them for is to help me with the more like anxious part of my brain, the more anxious part of my life of like answering questions. It's very existential. It's very much grieving. I process a lot of my grief through music. So I think that the music is doing something. It plays a role in my life, and I don't need the songs to be this other thing. I've got other ways of, going on a bike ride or something for that. So I think what the role that it serves in my life is that it tends to be maybe more like serious. And I think maybe people would be, now anyone who's hung around the art house, I think would like know me, I wouldn't be surprised, but I really like, and then I don't know what else would surprise people. I have like, my share of unsavory habits that I don't have to air right now. The old me would have gone.
I'm not asking for unsavory habits. I'm just,
you said delight. Yes. Like what would delight
delight.
people? What would they not know and delight in? I'm trying to think of anything.
No, you're great. You're great. Okay. So I just did a podcast with a guy who has been interviewing some artists of bands that he was into in the 90s about their first records, where he goes through them like song by song. And he went through the Normal's first record, my old band. And I had to revisit every song that I had written like in high school, song by song. And it was kind of brutal.
It is.
I learned that I didn't know what a second draft was because every song on that record was the first draft, and all sorts of things. Learned that I didn't even know what a theology was, let alone didn't have one. But you re-released an album that you're really proud of a few years ago, and you added some songs to it, which I think is so wonderful the way you did it, because you kind of had almost like a conversation with yourself back then, right? Isn't that kind of how you did with those songs? Would you tell me about that? I thought it was so wonderful that you did that.
Yeah, I did. We had talked to you, and I had talked to you about that idea, and I did end up more, I ended up taking the same kind of lens from that time and writing about where I am now.
Yeah.
We were talking about like writing letters to ourselves, and
Oh, yeah, that's
I,
right. That's right. That.
yeah, yes. It was. I think that's what I was talking about that clarity around that record, Add to the Beauty. I mean, that is the time when I'm realizing that I'm a mom and pop. It's just really a moment of agency. I had agency, and I said, oh, like life is so short and I don't
Hmm.
have time to make stuff that I'm not like just really pouring myself into. I was just talking to my son Kirby because he writes music and is working on a new record, and he was like how hard it is to admit that you're trying your hardest, and
Hmm.
it's hard to say like this is like I really gave this my best because you always want to a little bit hedge, or cover your bets and be like, um, well, that was, I was experimenting with this and that, this came out. But
Yeah, you want to give yourself an out. Yeah.
yeah, in case it's like not what not, and I think with I have a couple records and I'm never mailing it in. I'm always giving I'm always trying my hardest. But life doesn't always have as much, um, it doesn't always open up for you in a way where that allows you to like go all the way with this, with a record or a theme or whatever, or see something so completely through. And I Add to the Beauty it was a moment of alignment with so many areas of my life around justice, around my even my worldview, what it means to come in Jesus' name, or like you said, lack of theology, coming crystal of like what it means to allow for more mystery, and all these things, what the kingdom comes actually looks like, and I was so hungry for embodiment, for like what does this look like here, because I grew up Pentecostal, and there was a lot of dialogue about the hereafter. And Add to the Beauty, I kind of let some of that go, where what, is it okay if I'm not gonna like, I want to think about the reconciliation of all things and what that means in my actual real life, and not always for just this far off time and this far off moment. And I'd also been doing like all this sort of like motive work, where I called it the virtue bar, where it's like a chin up bar, as a kid when you're like on the chin up bar, and it's like I was doing all this virtue work it's like where I'm pouring over my motives constantly to a level where it's like, I'm going to do this perfectly. And I'm on the virtue bar, and then I fall off, and then I'm on for 60 seconds, and then I fall off, and then I'm on for 20 seconds, And it's like, to me, I just had caught a vision of Jesus and of like the life in Christ that was so far beyond the virtue bar. It was so far beyond that sort of constant internal work that it caught me as C.S. Lewis says, imagination is upstream to reason, and it was giving me an imagination for a really full lived, artful, faithful life, and so I felt like Add to the Beauty was such a realization of all those, or it was the beginning. I can go back and see the very first seed of these moments and these things in my life, and it's such a full picture of forgiveness and living in forgiveness and what that looks like. So it was a challenge then to find new songs that felt like they fit in that. But what was so fun is that the voice that started, like my freedom in my voice, meaning my like writing voice, the freedom that I started there when Charlie said to me, God is the ocean and we keep writing about a cup of water, or Steve Taylor would say, write about the light, but also write everything you see by the light. And I started writing about everything I see by the light with Add to the Beauty. I started writing about the ocean with Add to the Beauty. And so to have, ultimately the bonus songs just ended up being like, in this moment that I'm at right now with my kids launching and going to college, leaving home. I mean, there aren't many bigger moments in life than your kids leaving the nest and your parents passing. And I like, here I am in my 50s with like this songwriter tool belt, that I've put in the time. I've done the, you know what I mean? I've like worked on stuff, and So it was a real joy to reach into that tool belt that I feel like I kind of, in a way, I think before Add to the Beauty, it's not that I wasn't trying. I was writing songs, but it was very much like whatever I write in my diary, that's a song. That's a song and that's a song. And with Add to the Beauty, I was like, songwriting is a craft and I want to think about it. And like, I want to enter into this. It mattered, I wanted this to like, to have, to be like really naming, like I said, to have that framework of like, that's a thing that people do. There are contemplatives all throughout time have like taken time to think about things, name them, so that other people that may not have that, that as, I'm like navel gazer or whatever, but that's part of the makeup to like identify like what was that. And so to be able to name in like a song, like I wrote a song about taking it all in of just like the fleetingness, you just can't stop the flow of life. And I just like, it was fun to write a song now, knowing the seeds of that type of attention really started with Add to the Beauty. And to add those songs to that record was really fun.
It's really stunning. And it really is amazing how well they kind of flow together. Like, how just the deepening of the voice, even in your singing voice, but also the lyrical voice. Like it's really beautiful to get the chance to do that. This second half of life thing is such an interesting concept. It feels like, in a sense, that like the first batch of songs felt like maybe it was very much for you, and it feels like even the second the second batch of songs that you wrote, the few songs, kind of feel like they were for other people too. In a sense, like I see the work you do now being more and more outward, with the art house, with your Patreon, with even your songwriting. It feels like the spotlight that had been sort of started on your heart now kind of gets turned around and gets spread everywhere. I'm curious, am I right in that? What does that feel like when I say that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Well, I think that, again, those values that were named at Add to the Beauty, I've been trying to live into them, and it's not easy. Like I think to me, a faithful life is marked by generosity and community is really hard, and generosity is hard. Everything about us wants to shut the door and be like, I will just, it's hard to be out there. And right now it's so hard to keep trying to communicate, to see people, that humanity. And so to me, how I hold my faith is as or more important as to what I believe. I think I've set down because when I'm honing my own, like, this is what, when we come forward with like, this is what I believe, and we're forward with that, I just don't see Jesus going around saying, let me sit you down and tell you what I believe. He's doing something different. And I've been trying to unpack what Jesus is doing all this time. But to me, it's presence. He's generous. It's community. And it's messy. It's really hard. He has a way of seeing through past behavior, ethnicity, all these identity markers, tax collector, whatever, like Zacchaeus, like, I know your name. And the woman at the well, he's like, who touched me? He's seeing past all of these things that we kind of come forward with, of like, we've got this is what I believe out in front of us, and all of our identity stuff is like kind of wielded out in front of us. And it's a very defensive stance, and it doesn't allow for curiosity or like, just that again, seeing the Imago Dei, the image bearer in another. So I don't know if this is making sense, but I feel like, yeah, what you're hearing, I think, is like, what, not that what I believe doesn't matter. I have really strong convictions about things, but
Sure,
how I
sure.
hold my faith and how I go about my life of faith is as important to me as what I believe. And I've spent a lot more time on that, not because it doesn't matter, but I remember seeing, I think it was an Onion article, it might have been Babylon Bee, I can't remember, one of these, like
Satire.
satirical,
Yeah.
but it was like years ago, and it said, the rapture had happened, two people had gone. It was like a woman in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and a guy from Cambodia had made it because their theology was just right. So the right belief forward stuff is like, first of all, it's got so much hubris, and it just can't be it just, for me anyway, can't be the way my perfecting my right belief can't be the path if I'm trying to journey with, sorry to quote my own songs, but I have a song called Mystery, and it says, I see my faith before me. It's always there before me. And I can no more own it than I can own the road that I am on. I don't know where it leads me. I don't know where it leads me. Faith and resurrection, suffering and dejection, I don't know. And my body's tired from trying to bring you here, and my brow is furrowed from trying to see clear. So I turn my back and turn my back something and fall into basically wait for the mystery to rise up and meet me. And then it's the second verse says, there are as many takers as there are hearts to take it. In other words, every single person is out there, tinkering with their what I believe. So there are as many takers as there are hearts to take it. There are so many fakers. I myself have faked it, I should know. And sometimes this has left me crying in the darkness, hoping in the darkness, I will run into you again. So, and my body's tired from trying to sort of right belief my way through this world. Like, I have to fall back into the mystery and say, God himself told me two things: love God, love your neighbor. And I have to be able to see my neighbor in order to love them. And if I'm out front with my belief system, my weaponized belief system often, if I'm out front with that like that, I'm not going to be able to. So my songs used to be weaponized belief system songs. And now they're not. They're just bearing witness songs. I'm just bearing witness to what it means to be human. And I have seen the faithfulness of God. And that's part of my witness. But I don't start a song saying, what's the faithful thing to say? I start the song knowing, like, you see me, you love me, like, here we are. And like, that thing was hard, like, my dad is like, he's disappearing into this illness. But when he clears his throat, he engages his voice in a way, and it's like, that's him, he's there. And so like, how do I name that? So I say in Take It All In, it's like, I'm listening closely to what you're saying, timbre and syntax, detail and pacing. The light is leaving. It's that time again, and I'm trying to take it all in. I'm by his bedside, like, I'm hanging on all those little mannerisms that were my dad, because they're still, little ones are still there. And to me, I think that stuff goes out, and it has a, it's helping people, sense God in their life and experience the mystery of what he's made and what it means to be human and all those things. So, so I am writing about that whole of life, and probably does feel a little less like protected me. And like you said, more like, hey, we're all in this together. And what are the things that are common for us around faith and all of it, around life and death and all the things.
Love that. I mean, it's amazing to hear what all you have put into that. It's really incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'd like to end with just one last question, which is sort of a downshift. because there is a way that you've told us how you interact with people sort of in your physical community with the art
Mm-hmm.
house,
Mm-hmm.
people who are, living blocks away from you.
Mm-hmm.
But you also interact with people all around the country, around the world, virtually, and you've done this for a long time
Yeah.
on your Patreon. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd love it if you tell us about that, because you were one of the very first artists on that platform, and I feel like you have a
Yeah.
really unique way of doing that.
Yeah, I got on there in 2018, and it like Charlie and Andy being in the river, like inviting people into the river I was already going down. That was important to me. It didn't. Not that again that it hasn't been difficult at times or that there aren't work, but it is work. But that it should feel natural and a part of what I'm doing was like the goal. So I started in 2018. I was an early adopter because of the art house. I think it's hard for artists to say, like, because Patreon is a support, is like a financial support for me as well. And I think that
Yeah.
was really hard for me to enter into. I think because I had the art house, it was a little bit easier because it was like
Hmm.
my music is under the umbrella of art house, and then we're doing all these other things. And if you wouldn't support music, maybe you'll support an community art center, so it was kind of all in one thing. I think that softened it for me, but I think, and that like our social contract with people used to be, I'll sell you a $10 CD, and that's how we're good. That's our social contract.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to me, it made sense that at Patreon, at $1 a month, you're at $12 a year. So if our old social contract was like $10 a year from a listener, I felt like if our new social contract was like $12 for like $1 a month, that felt like, okay, maybe that's somehow our because the arts require endowment, and right
Yeah.
now those models of endowment, our social contracts have all been shaken or destroyed. And so
Yeah. They're pretty
so
broken.
artists are trying to find new social contracts with their listener. So Troy always says, like, on that front, on the financial front, it was an invitation for people like, hey, I'll keep making music if you want to be a part of that, then I'm over here at this Patreon. And Troy will say, like, what does your portfolio look like? You're investing in these different things. Do you represent the arts, and that would be like, I think we can't possibly support every artist we listen to. It's not possible that we could support everyone that way. Are there 5 artists that we really like? We want them to be making music. We want them in the world making music. If
Yeah.
that person exists, then like maybe get in there, get onto whatever platform where they're doing that, whether it's like Substack or Patreon or whatever they're doing. So for me, Patreon became, I kind of got off the hamster wheel on social media. I don't do a lot of social media. In fact, most of my like thought sharing and myself, where I kind of share of myself, I am very much on Patreon. It's me. I have a team, but it's like I'm on there. I'm on Patreon curating that. And it's where I'm like having my thoughts and things, sharing new music demos and all that stuff. So it's been fun. And I'm super grateful. I can't believe that people, when I was taking care of my dad, it got really quiet. I wasn't able to post a lot, and people were they're super supportive. And I do a book club that I love that because that's on Zoom, and I get to see people, keep people's faces and get to know them. And so yeah, it's been good.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's so
Thanks
great.
for bringing that up. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, for spending time. It's just such a treat to talk to you, and it's obvious why people would want to support you. You are doing just some
Oh,
of the most beautiful work, and you still to this day are the only artist that my mom has ever turned me on to.
oh,
So you have that distinction. Yeah.
okay.
My mom said, I heard an artist that I think you would love. And I was like, okay, fine. And then she gave me your CD, and I was like, dang, my mom was right. This is so good. So, yeah, I still tell her, like, Mom, thanks for turning me on to Sara Groves.
All
Because
right. All
you nailed that
right.
one. Yeah.
Good. Thanks,
So
Mom.
we're both
Thanks,
fans.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Osenga. Yes.
She's going to love this
Thank you.
this episode too. So, hi, Mom.
Well,
Thank you so much, Sarah. Yeah.
it was a
If people
curio
want to support
cabinet
you,
of it was a curio cabinet of things. Yeah,
No.
Patreon. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah. How do they find that?
Uh, on
People they
Patreon,
want to
Sara
support you.
Groves. Yeah. No H on Sarah at patreon.com. And arthousenorth.com and saragroves.com. So all those places.
Wonderful. Sarah, thank you so much. This has been a treat.
Thank you, Andrew. Love you, friend. You're the best.
You too. Yeah, way to go, Mom. I actually met Sarah for the first time when we toured together for a year or two on a really early version of Andrew Peterson's Behold the Lamb tour. Maybe early, like 2012, 14, something like that. Her kids were on that tour. They were young, and it's been fun to watch them grow up. I am just such a fan of not only Sarah's work, but the way she interacts with her audience and the people that support her on their Patreon, the people that are a part of Art House. The way she just moves through the world, I think, is truly inspiring. And yeah, what a treat to get to have her on here. Also, I just want to say welcome to all the new folks who are listening or watching after we had Amy Grant and NT Wright on the past couple weeks. No shock that we've got more people here after those two guests, but glad you're here. Hope you stick around. If you'd like to get in touch or be more involved with the podcast or other things that I'm doing, you can find me at my Substack. You can do that all at andrewosenga.com. But my Substack is where I write every week about faith and art and culture and music and the church. I'm kind of working on a series about why we sing the songs we do at church on Sundays right now, and talking about the series of prayer books that I'm working on that'll come out in October. And I'm actually not writing as much right now because I'm kind of in monk mode trying to finish these books, so apologies to everybody about the fact that I'm a little behind on Substack. No, I'm not even going to apologize. I'm writing some books. It's free, so sign up and you know, whatever. But it's a great place to get to be connected, and I'm very thankful for everybody that supports, whether it's free or you support non-free. Okay, well, we'll be back in 2 weeks with another truly amazing episode. Can't wait. It's summer. I just got back from a really great hike, which was wonderful, and I'm about to go drive out to the Rabbit Rooms, Northwind Manor, and I'm going to work on my book on the back porch until the sun goes down, and I'm not sad about that at all. So that's what I'm going to do, and I hope you guys go do something awesome.